Thanks for the intro. Lauren Gourmet. Again, I run and manage the ISV partnerships, ISV standing for Independent Software Vendors, in the tri-state territory, so New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Been with the company for a little over 7 years in our San Francisco and now in the New York office. And my role, along with the ISV team, we've got a lot of folks from the ISV team that are here for our Salesforce One event that's tomorrow. But our role is a really fun one. And our role is to work with innovative technology companies who are looking to build either standalone applications on our platform or integrated solutions to our CRM. And we jointly take those to market. So our SVP always says this. He says our team is kind of like mini venture capital firms going after and working with companies to build a vision, work on product strategy, work to build a true go-to-market strategy to not only build a solution, again, whether it's just to sell to existing Salesforce customers or to net new customers, and make them successful taking them to market. So we work really closely on sales programs, marketing alignment, true go-to-market strategies to make sure that our partners are very successful, not only building solutions and leveraging our technology on our platform, but also going to market successfully and truly being an enterprise company and selling the solution very successfully. So with that said, I've got 3 of our partners here with me today. We wanted to share their story more on the technology front and more on the build front for this panel, understanding a little bit more about why they chose the technology. I want to talk a little bit more about their company so you understand their story, understand kind of where they're at in this process, and how they've been successful getting to where they're at today. So with that said, I'd like to introduce some of the panelists here. Stephen Messer. Come on down. Over here. Stephen Messer with Collective Eye. He's co-founder and vice chairman. We've got Mikkel with CloudAware. Come on down. And we've got Prit Kong with Journey Sales, one of our newest partners.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. So let's start with just, again, a little bit of background, overview, intros. I want everyone in the audience to understand a little bit more about where you guys are coming from, where you're at currently. So if we can just start and tell us, Mikkel, we'll start with you. Talk a little bit about CloudAware, where you guys are at, and a little bit more about your vision and strategy.
Sure. Thank you, Lauren. CloudAware is a cloud management company. We primarily focus on managing infrastructure as a service, cloud providers like Amazon Web Services, Google, Heroku, and Microsoft Azure. So we cover the full spectrum of cloud management, from costs, security, backups. So it's a full suite of cloud management solutions. We target enterprise customers, Fortune 500 customers, or companies that have very large infrastructure footprints, thousands of servers, tens of thousands of servers. And so we started off 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and I don't think we would have gotten anywhere where we have gotten today, acquiring many Fortune 500 customers without having built our application on Force.com, on Salesforce platform. So company has grown substantially, and I'll share my experiences throughout this panel with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mikkel. Stephen?
So hi, my name is Stephen Messer. One of the co-founders of a company called Collective Eye. Collective Eye is trying to bring predictive insights to the selling process, to move away from pure gut-oriented selling to using predictive analytics and other analytical technologies to drive better results. We started the company a few years ago. This is my second startup. The first one was Linkshare, which is another great technology company here in New York, 2 blocks away from here, actually. We sold that company for about $500 million. So I've had experiences on building completely on our own as a technology company to great scale, and also now working with Salesforce and the Salesforce ISV team, which has been an amazing experience. So I'll talk about that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Prit?
Hi. So we started about 1.5 years ago. In fact, we are the newest partner. We launched in just October in Dreamforce. So about a year ago, we were building on Amazon and trying to build a lot of CRM functionality. I ran to Lauren and Ryan at Dreamforce who said, rather than building a lot of the functionality, why don't we just leverage the Salesforce functionality and build our application on top of it? So we launched in Dreamforce. So what we do is we are a sales and customer engagement application, which takes a lot of the functionality in CRM, uses our application on the top, lets salespeople create something called a smart room, where they can engage with the buyers, and the buyers can come in, then they can learn and get nurtured at their own pace. And at that point of time, there's a lot of engagement, collaboration back and forth.
Awesome, thanks. That leads me to next question here. Prit, we'll start with you. I want to talk a little bit more about kind of the evaluation cycle and timelines, and I'm sure there's people in the room that are, wondering which types of technology to build on, and understanding that process, that evaluation process that you went through, I think would be very helpful.
So 3 components when we started looking at the platforms. We were looking at mobility piece of it, we were looking at the platform piece of it, and then, of course, the go-to-market and the delivery mechanism in there. So looking at all 3 mechanisms, we went to the route of building it on AWS first. And when we started building a lot of CRM, core CRM functionality, then we decided about a Dreamforce, one Dreamforce ago, we didn't want to rebuild a lot of the core functionality which already exists. The customer's already using that. So when we looked at all the enterprise softwares, SAP, Salesforce, and everybody having CRM functionality, we looked at the mobility, we looked at the platform. When we kind of looked at all 3 of them together, Salesforce was an obvious choice for us.
Awesome. Thanks. And Stephen, you guys are built on AWS and also your own private stack. Can you talk to us a little bit about that evaluation cycle for you as well?
Sure. I mean, look, you're building a business that's going to be your livelihood and also the livelihood of your customers. In our case, we're focused on primarily Fortune 500 companies. Those are companies like American Express and beyond. And we're also focused on some of the fast-growing companies like Movable Ink and Akamai. And so these are companies that rely on you, and it's not just about the agreement that you sign. You're trying to figure out, how do I keep bringing them cutting-edge technology? So for us, we wanted to find a way to leverage the best technologies that were out there. And when you're making that evaluation, you're not just trying to find a place that does one thing well. You're trying to find a way that's going to scale with you for the length of your business. We ended up working very closely with Salesforce. Salesforce is for us probably one of the more critical partners, both from the technology stack. They are technologists at their nature. So sometimes you see companies that start off as a portal, and they're trying to turn into something else, and they're doing it secondarily because they think they should. I think for Salesforce, the ecosystem for them is a core component to their success. And so I think that was a critical piece for us. They're very strong on the technology side. And they've got a very clear and articulated vision of where they're going. So that means that we can actually predict where we can build and take advantage of. And I think also working with their team, Mike Creedon, who's here in the back, Lauren, Brian Snyder, some of their people, they actually get what you're trying to do from a software business, and they help on many levels. So for us, I think the ability to integrate, to not have to rely on everything being in one place, and knowing that you've got a team that's supportive, it was pretty critical. I think of all the partners we looked at, and we looked at pretty much everyone, and I know everyone was actively trying to recruit us, they were the hands down winner for us.
Mikhail, can you talk a little bit about the evaluation cycle for you in terms of, you've got a very robust application and, very enterprise focused. Some of your first customers were NASA, McGraw-Hill. Talk a little bit about that process for you.
Sure. Before we got to NASA and other other big companies, I wanted to say NASA, Fortune 500. They're a unique category. We, like everybody else, who has developed products before, have a team of a very talented Java programmer, started writing everything from scratch. Great. Went and did a couple of pitches, and enterprise customers, all enterprise customers are pretty much going to ask you the same questions, where they will want a very common set of features. They'll ask you for, okay, do you have a BI component? Do you have some kind of a business intelligence dashboards? Do you have single sign-on? How are you going to protect my data? What standards are you compliant with? How are you going to scale? How are you protected against denial of service? How do I know your service is not going to go down? And so these are very tough questions. And so when I looked at that, when I just looked at the business intelligence piece and the single sign-on piece, I'm like, do I want to develop my product, or do I want to develop this like common prerequisites just to get into the enterprise doors? I said, I want to develop my product. I want to develop the vision, not work on things that are already done by somebody else. So we threw away every single line of code we had pretty much, and we built up inside the Salesforce, inside Force.com platform.
And who's your target customer? Who are your end user? Your end users? Is it Salesforce customers, net new customers? What does that look like for you?
So we do run into a lot of customers who are already Salesforce customers, and so that question of how is my data protected now, it used to be like this important. Now it's, because I tell them, look, guys, your most sensitive data is already in Salesforce, and we're basically taking data from your cloud and putting into something that you already trust. So that legitimacy, is already there. And then some customers that we work with are IT departments. So a traditional person that we sell to is a director of infrastructure, head of cloud operations, CIO, and we bring Service Cloud, we bring Salesforce into a territory that's new. It's an uncharted territory. It's the IT department, and that's great for us, and it's also great for Salesforce because we feel their force with us because we are bringing them into the areas of the enterprise where they haven't dominated before.
But you don't necessarily need to sell to an existing Salesforce customer, right? If they don't have a CRM license. I think some of the beauty of your solution and a type of solution that you've developed is you can sell to someone who might not even know about Salesforce, right?
Yes, and some of our customers, they actually very later on actually realized that they're on Force.com platform. Our application is branded with look and feel that other than the fact that it says Force.com in the URL, you wouldn't know you're in Salesforce. And so it's okay for some, and then for, like I said, it can either they don't care about it, or it gives you a lot of legitimacy that you are part of that trusted platform. Got it.
Thanks. So let's take a step back and talk a little bit more high level about why platform as a service. I mean, you guys were looking to build, new, innovative startup companies. Why platform as a service? Why did you guys choose that to really, be the secret sauce for your business? Brett?
Okay. So when we were looking again, trying to, we don't have to build a lot of the components. So Michaela just mentioned in there, single sign-on, security, that is a given. As a platform as a service in this case, we don't have to rebuild a lot of the CRM components, which we needed for our application. So that was the biggest component for us. We don't have to convince anybody on cloud. We don't have to convince anybody by our CRM component versus Salesforce or any of the ones they have existing. On top of that, a go-to-market, a delivery component from us, scalability. All those things combined in there, platform as a service was an obvious choice for us. Speed to market was another big thing. If we had to do it on our own, we probably wouldn't be in the market for another year, I would say.
You guys have a pretty aggressive roadmap in terms of how you're looking to scale that product. Can you talk a little bit, just from a high level, about how you're able to really take that next version of your product, iterate quickly, and because you guys are doing, I know what it looks like a year out, what you're looking to do, and it's very impressive.
So from our perspective, we work very agile. So working on looking at Salesforce components, all the new products which are coming out from Salesforce also, we're leveraging something called communities, where we are able to use the communities and as a part of our application, build on top of that, and go out to the market in a much faster way than we would be able to do otherwise. And same thing, we keep on expanding deeper into the Salesforce functionality for our next releases also.
Awesome. Thanks. Steve, talk to me. We hear mobile everywhere, right? Mobile with consumers, mobile and enterprise. Talk to me a little bit about your mobile strategy and what you guys are thinking.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd like to do is actually comment too on one thing Mikhail said.
Sure.
I think when someone says like, "Oh, security's a big deal," they want to know these questions. We got a questionnaire from a customer, 67 pages of questions. Now, that may not seem like a big deal. Like when someone says like, "Oh, security is a big deal," and that they answer all these questions, when someone hands you a 67-page questionnaire and they're expecting them to also go and follow up on that, where they're going to do a penetration test and all this stuff. You realize how important this stuff is. This isn't like I'm just offsetting these little things to somebody else. These are major things that are not easy anymore to do. When we started Linkshare in '96 and we tried to build it on our own, this stuff was generally new. We could get away with it. Doing it again, having as much venture money as we could ever want, I would still never do this stuff on my own. I think you'd be a fool to do it. The resources needed to deal with DDoS and other things are not minor. So you're banking on the fact that you have to pick your partner to really survive in this world today. So I think that was the first piece. I think the second thing is when you layer on things like mobile, these are not easy things to just think about. I mean, you're talking about many different applications, many different uses, and you have to figure through that strategy. So what's important is that you're trying to figure out how do your users take advantage of your application when they're on the road, or even if they're not on the road, if they're just using a different device because they've chosen to move away from desktop or a laptop. And so for us, it's a pretty critical strategy because we care about the end user first. So if the idea is predictive analytics in sales, it can't be a statistician's tool. Statistician's tool. We'll try that again. Try that 3 times fast. But it can't be something that's so complex. So the user interface really lends itself well for mobile in the sense that you're actually interacting with the information that you're being provided. So for us, the ability to integrate into Salesforce and the ability to integrate into their view of mobile saves us a lot of effort in trying to figure out a good mobile strategy and also trying to figure out how to get it in the hands of our users where they'll get the benefits of it.
Mikhail, how are you guys thinking about mobile?
So we're thinking about mobile. We also think a lot about social, which is another big piece. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead to the next question.
No, go for it.
Because for us, the two go hand in hand.
Yep.
So we deal with our customers. Number one pain that we're trying to fix for them is the siloed. IT departments are very siloed. Essentially, you have, let's say, a department that does backups, security, monitoring, DevOps, performance monitoring. And so those departments, business stakeholders, they're not talking to each other very well at all. And so one of the ways that we're using, and then IT, business happens 24/7. So the IT guys, they're staring at servers and dashboards 24/7. So the mobility is obviously very important just because of who our customer is. But we leverage mobile in a very social way, trying to bring these IT departments together. To give you an example, if somebody in the engineering, department makes, so let's say a firewall change in your Google Compute Cloud, the network security department, that's going to show up in their chatter feed saying so-and-so just updated the firewalls. And so we use mobile to connect people, and we use social to break the traditional silos within the enterprise IT department.
Awesome. You guys have a pretty cool mobile story, obviously social story. Your whole company and product is built on the concept of social. Talk to us a little bit about that and the importance of mobile and social for our journey.
The way we're thinking about mobile is we didn't really have to think about it because of Salesforce One. So a lot of the thinking we were doing in a prior stage via Amazon AWS, we were thinking about fully mobile. And when we found out about Salesforce One, which got launched like about a year and a half ago, we didn't have to think about it. Everything was out of the box, mobile ready. So that was pretty easy for us to go mobile. On top of that, just wanted to mention on social, leveraging the communities, leveraging chatter. Our reach to our customers, so the way we license sales rep, them reaching out to their customers, we are using communities. When communities chatter.
Can you elaborate a little bit on communities? Most people probably don't know exactly kind of what it is and how it's part of your product too.
Sure. So Salesforce has customer and partner communities. So what we are leveraging is customer communities, how using communities, sales rep can reach out to their customers, their contacts in their contact database. So with that functionality, they can reach out to them, but we're using our application with built-in communities, built-in chatter, which we use for collaboration. It comes all together. So customers coming in to the room, using communities, log in there, where they don't even have to be a Salesforce customer, which traditionally, for them to access the Salesforce systems, they had to buy a Salesforce license in that case. So in our case, using communities, Salesforce customers do not have to buy a Salesforce license.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you guys have done is so tremendous. I mean, it truly is, you know, the next generation way of selling and collaborating with customers and prospects, and that we were talking about today in a meeting. I mean, there's so many different use cases that you can use for technology like you've built. I mean, it's not only for direct sales and customers and prospects, but also we were talking about, right, training use cases. We're talking about more enablement type stuff. We were talking about, you know, insurance, financial services, all that. So still very impressed with what you guys have put together.
Thank you. Thanks.
So we've only got a couple minutes left. I mean, what's some advice that you guys would have for these folks in the room who are, you know, everyone's at different stages here, but really thinking about technology choices and building a business for the enterprise? Mikhail?
So, I mean, think about who your customer is, and think about what's important to them, and how does the Salesforce, how does that align with, does it help you to get in the door? Does it, you know, does it give you additional legitimacy? Do you, you know, are there specific features that you need? And just sort of, you know, position yourself relatively to the Salesforce. You have to go through that, you know, exercise. Don't do it just because it's Salesforce. You know, figure out how exactly it is going to play in your hand. And also think about this. Do you want to innovate by yourself? Do you want every single new feature that's going to come out from your product be the product of your work? You know, when Salesforce 1 comes out, when new features from, you know, when Salesforce, you know, Winter 15 comes out, you know, I can go to my customers and I can tell them, hey, I have new features. Check them out.
We're like begging you to use the Salesforce 1 version of the product, but it was there for you if you wanted it to leverage it with your customers.
And so you get to ride the wave. Like, think of it like you know, you're like surfing. You're riding the wave of the Salesforce, and you're just adding whatever it is that you're adding. But there's a huge innovation, you know, that's behind you.
Stephen?
I mean, look, here's what I'd say. You guys are entrepreneurs. This is not an easy life. I mean, when you pick it being an entrepreneur, you pick basically misery for a lot of years in the hopes of some big outcome at the end. Is this unfair? Or this is what it is. So when you're going to go build something, you know, you have to figure out which battles you're going to fight. And when you can get something on your side where it has good technology, it has a team that's behind you to build the business, and it has customers that know the product and like it, you know, you really try to lessen the battles you're going to fight. I think if you're going to build your business, don't try to go alone. You know, ally up. And Salesforce for us has been a great ally. It's a relatively new ally, and I can tell you, having worked, you know, in this industry of technology for almost 20 years, they are probably one of the strongest allies we've ever worked with. So I would think long and hard if you're thinking about just going in on your own.
So my advice will be, from a technical stack, think about from a technology perspective, think about the delivery mechanism aspect also, how are you going to reach out to your customers. So for us, you know, looking at convincing customers about cloud, about our CRM, our product in there, versus going to the Salesforce ecosystem, where, you know, millions of customers, I mean, hundreds and thousands of customers, and millions of licenses they have sold. So each one of them is a candidate for us to start with. So our universe went up from people we could reach and our mechanism to, you know, Salesforce, every single customer they have.
Awesome. Thanks. Do we have time for any questions or no?
I'm going to do one question.
Okay. I think we're waiting for Mike.
So I had a quick question. If you look at these platforms like AWS and Salesforce, and you look at like the history of computing, where Microsoft started off as an operating system, they start adding on features, and they build up, and AWS is constantly adding a new feature. Does it worry you guys that these platforms will evolve in the future to potentially compete or ideally acquire you guys. How do you deal with that? Do you guys even think about it, or do you just kind of make your decision and move on?
I think that's the big question that everyone holds everyone back, right? I mean, the only reason to not go down a route of picking a partner is because you think, oh my God, one day they're going to come after me. And I think it's kind of it's a weird logic because, one, your argument is I've gotten so big and so successful that now they think I should go after you. Because if they're just going, if they're just building out their stack and that ends up in stepping on your toes, my argument is you probably picked a pretty bad business. You were a feature in a continual set of development, and you weren't necessarily a standalone app. If you're building a real business where it's going to survive, and you get so big where they look and say, oh my God, I must have that. One, I would argue it puts their entire ecosystem at risk. Because every time they walk and say, oh my God, that's so big, I must get there, and they either don't buy, but they go and try to kill, it does scare away a lot of people. I mean, you can look at what happened to Twitter's ecosystem, where they sort of were unclear with the rules, they sort of changed things here and there, and now people have sort of fled that ecosystem, and they have a high value, and it's affected their own growth. So I think that the worry about will these guys come into my market is a rich man's worry. Like I've done so well that at that point I don't think you have that kind of concern. If you look, Netflix is built on AWS, and AWS has built their own kind of whatever. What do they call it? Where they give you movies?
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, whatever. No one knows. Like, who cares, right? And that's the point, which is they dominate their market, and they still haven't moved off of AWS. It doesn't matter.
All right, I'm getting the head nod and the music that we're done. Thanks, you guys. Really appreciate your time today. And we've got so many folks from the ISV team that are here. We're probably like 12 to 15 of us. So come talk to us, say hi. We'd love to learn more about your guys' business and